Oh, now you're taking pictures of me.
I'm not taking pictures. So this is Miss Pat Jones, and she is about to share her story of her childhood, I'm assuming?
It's when I was in the 7th grade.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead and begin.
My father was a logger and a fisherman, and we lived in a little tiny town on the Oregon coast called Manzanita.
Okay.
I started to school, and I was the only 6th grader in a room with 3 grades in this class. I was in a single desk on the far side. I went through my 6th grade that way. The next year, I was going to be the only 7th grader. And so I spent the morning studying with these other 3 grades, with my teacher giving me some extra homework over on the side. And at the lunchtime, the principal of this little school came and got me and drove me 20-some miles on our lunch hour to go to a bigger school where I was one of 26 7th graders. And I don't know what he did for 3 hours. But at the end of the day, then he would pick me up and he would drive me back home so I would have a better education than what he thought I was getting in his school district. And I remember that because I was at a time when 7th graders are being somewhat social.
Yeah.
I sat all morning in a class where no one talked to me because they were busy with all these other kids that were younger than me. And then I went to a school and I walked in right at the end of recess and lunch hour, and nobody talked to me again or even bothered to learn my name. And I did my lessons, turned in my homework, got in the car, went home, didn't know a single soul in that whole school. Finished out that year, and we moved to Portland, Oregon, where I was one of about 3 8th grades in this huge grade school.
3 8th grade students?
3 8th grades.
Oh.
Full classes of 8th graders.
Jeez.
And we had 3 full classrooms.
Okay.
And and I made friends. It was all very interesting. But I remember I didn't know about streets. I had to go to jaywalking school. I had never seen a home ec room before or a music room before.
So you got in trouble for jaywalking?
Oh yeah.
You got some tickets,
huh? I would
huh?
just go to school, and I was 8th grade. I'd take off and go to school, and a policeman stopped me and made me go to jaywalking school.
Ooh.
Downtown Portland, I had to learn to ride a bus. But I remember walking into a home ec classroom and being blown away by sinks and sewing machines and just the enormousness of it. And then we had our very first 8th grade dance.
Oh gosh.
And it was a really big thing at school. And I remember getting a new dress. I was pretty excited about a new dress, a new pair of shoes, and going to this dance where they had punch and cookies on a big long table, and then they had little tables all set around. And I remember the first time somebody came up and asked me to dance, that's when it entered my mind that I didn't have a clue what dancing was.
The dance?
I'd never even seen it done.
And you went to the dance without knowing, huh?
Didn't even give it a thought. I was just more excited about shoes and my hair and a dress.
Looking pretty, yeah.
So I get a real kick out of watching the kids with their exposure to things as compared to the exposure I had as a kid.
Did you have I was talking to Miss Isley about it one time. I believe it's called the beehive haircut, right? When it's a big bun in the back.
Oh, you would tease it.
And it looks like a beehive, I guess.
Yeah, you would tease it and roll it all up. Oh yeah,
Is that what you would do?
Yeah,
Is that
we
back
did
in the day?
I'm not so old as I had the Marcel curls where they hooked you up to a machine that did it. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
But, living at the beach from one little school to another little school, by the time I graduated high school, I went to 13 schools. in 12 years. That's how much we moved.
And did you just move because?
Because of logging and fishing.
Yeah.
It was my dad's style of work, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it just was a way of life with me. I didn't know anything different.
13 schools in 12 years.
13 schools before I got out of high school.
Jeez.
But I think that when I tried to explain to kids that I'd never seen a street, let alone a crosswalk,
Yeah.
that you had to confine yourself in. I'd never seen a school bus to where we had to be picked up and delivered.
Wow.
You know, you either walked or a parent took you or a neighbor took you.
So you went from how many kids over in Manzanita Street to how many kids in
probably 90 to 100 eighth graders. And the
over
year
in Manzanita?
no, in Portland.
Okay.
And I walked into that situation from a school where I was the only 7th grader. And even after he transported me 20 minutes each way, I was still only one of about 20.
Yeah, and he was transporting you from to the higher education.
To the higher education.
Okay. So any other significant things go on when you went to Portland?
Well, your whole life changes when you get into a setting that huge. Your type of play is different. Everything is different as compared to when you're living in a little tiny town.
Did you play sports both in your tiny town and in Portland?
I played basketball, and that was in the year when we had girls only went half court.
Oh, really?
So
would you go to half court, take it out, and then come back?
No, you had forwards and you had guards, and so there was this big flurry right at the half line of trying to get the ball if you got it, you know, to get it to your forward on the other side.
It was pretty much a shrunken version of soccer with your hands.
I imagine.
Yeah.
But imagine, just half court. They thought that's all we should be able to walk.
Yeah.
Yes.
You must have proved them wrong then. How come you didn't make it to the WNBA?
I think it was because my legs were too short.
Yeah, I'm finding the same problem.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
So, any other specific stories? Where did you move to after Portland, or did you graduate?
Well, and I graduated from Portland, then I went to, my parents were there a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to Tillamook. So
Yes.
I was in 3 different high schools.
And Tillamook is in Oregon?
Tillamook, Oregon is on the Oregon coast.
Okay.
And it was, we had about 125 in our graduating class. So it was more of a normal sized school.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked it there.
You probably ate a lot of cheese.
No, I didn't eat any cheese when I lived there. And I don't drink milk to this day, and I certainly didn't drink milk when we lived there.
You've never drank milk?
Never.
So what, if you can compare to all the places that you've been, and you've lived, what do you see different, like your dance analogy, what do you see different between kids these days, specifically women, and kids back when you were a teenager / middle schooler? What do you see different between women's roles then and women's roles now?
Well, I'm going to just give you one story. When I was a senior in high school, I can remember sitting down with my parents, very kind, loving parents,
Mm-hmm.
and talking to them about wanting to go on to college. Now, this would have been in 1958, and I wanted to be an accountant. And I can remember my mom and dad saying, "No, I'm not going to spend my hard-earned money teaching a daughter a man's field."
Wow.
And they weren't being mean.
That's just
that
how
was
things
just
were.
how defined it was.
Yeah, and of course nowadays
Oh, why? They
women are
probably-
encouraged
It's
to.
like 911 abuse,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
if somebody said that to you. But in those days, there were more roles.
Yeah, no, So that's a great story.
But I'm not going to spend my hard-earned money sending a daughter to college to learn a man's field.
Because they believe that you should be getting married and be supported by your husband, right?
I'm not. I never remember asking Dad what he thought was a woman's field. I was so stunned
Yeah.
that was his answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was really with it. But I did study accounting. And
you ended up going to college for accounting.
I did. And we changed it to bookkeeping. I think bookkeeping was probably more of a woman's field than accounting.
And how was that? Did you have to pay for everything yourself because, like, your parents said they weren't going to pay for it?
You know, I lived with a family, friends of my mom and dad's,
mm-hmm.
and they did, mom and dad settled up, however, with this couple. I babysat, but I did live there,
mm-hmm.
and I ate there, and then I had to pay books and tuition.
Wow, so you lived with the family for free and got kind of lucky with that?
Well, whatever
huh?
Mom and Dad had set up between them, I don't know what they paid them, but my job was books and tuition.
Cool.
And I don't think in the home, it wasn't like girls cleaned and my brother got to cut firewood with Dad. I don't remember that distinction,
mm-hmm.
even that long ago.
Mm-hmm. So you were going through college right as the women's era started really becoming, let's fight for the higher power, and you were really coming of age as the revolution, I guess the women's revolution came forward. So you were kind of with that class of
you know, I remember hearing, reading, and seeing a lot of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't get very interested in it because I'd always pretty well done anything
mm-hmm.
I wanted to do anyway.
Mm-hmm. And how did accounting school end for you?
I actually got a degree in accounting.
Mm-hmm.
I never went into CPA work, but I went to work for Chevrolet, Oldsmobile, Cadillac Motor Division in Portland.
Wow.
Keeping books for them. So I kind of felt I was doing just what I wanted to do.
And you did you stay with that until you met your wonderful large husband Roy?
Yes, I did. I was keeping books, and then Roy was a professional forester, and that was subject to transfer.
Uh-huh.
And you don't sign on to be a bookkeeper or an accountant with a company when you know you're only going to be around every 2-3 years. You're going to be transferred.
Yeah.
So then I fell into decorating. We would buy old houses. I'd fix them up. And people would start to ask me to help them, and so one thing led to another, and I just fell into it.
Okay.
And being self-employed means I can control my hours.
Exactly.
That's what I did.
So, one last question to finish up. Would you say that the women's role in a household, in the workplace, in basically America's society, would you say that the women's role has become basically more more necessary? Has it become a bigger part of America's society, the women's role being, you know what I mean, like women being more involved in the workplace, and
oh yes,
it's become
the number of families where you have two working people, two working parents in a family, the percentage is so high,
through the roof.
It was never a struggle with Roy and I as to, I want to go to work, no, I want you to stay home with the children. It was always just more supporting one another.
Good.
You saw the needs of what you wanted for your family, and we just supported one another to get the best of the end result. But today, you have the involvement of the kids, you have women working, you have men working. Well, I'm just going to say it. After Sarah and the kids died, I went very briefly, but to a counselor on grief. And I remember her expression was that families were so busy, they were recognizing as psychiatrists and counselors, couples would come and they wanted counseling but they couldn't find a way to free up their schedules to do what they knew and wanted to do. That's just how tight people are living their lives now.
Yeah.
Everyone's a home engineer. You must see it with your mom.
I do.
Yeah.
I do see it a lot. Well, that